Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the Catching Up podcast with Ananya and Katrina, two college friends who are doing their best to keep catching up with each other while pursuing their goals and dreams. This episode will be a continuation of our conversation in the last episode where we're talking about defining success as women and the different paths that we can go down. That one got a little bit long, and so we're going to continue the conversation here.
And let's start where we ended, having it all. Is balance a myth, Katrina? And what does it look like for someone who wants both career and family?
I think it depends on the person. I think the definition of balance depends on the person. For some of us, for me, balance is usually prioritizing one thing at a time and having some other things going on at the side, but knowing what your priority is. For me, it's really hard to do multiple things 100% effort, super intense. So in that sense, balance for me would be a myth. But it depends on your definition of balance because my definition of balance would be prioritizing one thing over the others. What about you? Do you think balance is a myth?
I don't think balance is a myth, but I do agree that sometimes you need to prioritize one thing over other, and being able to prioritize those things well means balance. So I feel like balance is not a myth, and I want both career and at some point focus. Do I? I don't know. But I definitely want to win at life and win at career and win at home and win at career. And I feel like that would take balance. And if I am wanting to do it, I somehow subconsciously know that it's possible.
Yeah, I think we both have the idea that if we want to do something, we'll figure out how we're gonna do it
Yeah.
versus questioning whether or not we can do it. I do think it is important to be self-aware and to understand especially with balance and when you want to do everything 100%, understanding how you burn out and when you burn out and knowing when you're about to burn out
Yeah.
and being able to deal with that.
Yeah.
So I think knowing yourself is really important.
Yeah. I totally agree. I feel like that balance would, I think there would be a trade offs, and you will feel burned out. You will feel like you're missing out. You're not enough at your career or at your family life. And that time would need more of you and kindness towards yourself and things you love doing for yourself and your hobbies. And if you are able to be there for yourself completely, you'd be able to be there for your career and for your family life. Do you think balance is a myth for guys too? I don't want to talk about it a lot because we are definitely not men, and we're not.
We're
It's
not.
just an observation and not the perspective, their perspective. So, but what do you think?
I think balance in the same sense that we're talking about it for women is definitely different because I feel like when we talk about balance as women, we're talking about it from career versus family. And do you integrate those? Do you pick one? Whereas I think with guys, at least what I have seen, not speaking for men, but what I've observed is that it seems like it's easier to balance. Because I think as women, our choice, when we were presented the choices, it was you have a family and you're a stay at home mom, or you have a career and you climb the corporate ladder or whatever. And when we choose to do both of those, we do both of them 100%. Whereas I think for men, the traditional role was being a provider for the family, financially.
Yeah.
And so the definition of being a good present father is different from the definition that women have and that society has of being a good present mother. So I think in terms of the balance between family and career, I think the definition of balance for men is different. But that isn't saying that there aren't other things that men have to balance that women are less focused on.
Do you think there's this biological clock that puts women under pressure because there's a timeline? There's a timeline for family and there's a timeline for career. Like it almost overlaps. And that's why they're under so much pressure. While for guys, like they can focus on their career and then like push their timeline for family.
I definitely think so. Um, like biologically, like women have to have kids earlier. Like men can keep having kids longer than women can. And
Yeah.
I like also I guess like the medical community also has their like definition of a geriatric pregnancy at like 35. And so for us, it makes us feel like we have to like get everything done and like have a family earlier.
Yeah.
And I think for us too, like we both want to have like decently successful careers or businesses before we have a family and like have the resources to have a family, and we have a smaller window to do that. Um, and I think for guys, like there isn't that biological timeline, but there is also
The pressure
the
to
timeline of
succeed.
like, yeah, I think for
Yeah.
guys, at least what I've noticed, and like the guys in my life, like the pressure is to be able to provide for a family before you have a family.
Yeah.
A lot more than women. Like I feel like we have a little bit more flexibility with
Leverage.
like
Yeah.
providing for a family, but I think there's a lot of like burden and pressure on men to do that. And so I
Yeah.
think I don't know, it's a weird
It
it's a
feels like
difficult
both
mix
of,
because like
yeah,
we have to have family early and they have to have
career
everything like ready before
setup.
they have a
Yeah.
family. So it's like we got to be early and they are like later.
Yeah. And I feel like we can have this balance if we support each other, because there are men, I feel like they're trying to be there for their families and they're trying their best to be as available as possible, but they also have this pressure of you need to be successful at your career, like you need to provide. And at the same time, like women have these societal expectations of showing up for family, but at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
there are things they want to do for themselves, for their career, either climbing up the ladder, corporate ladder, or having their own business. And I feel like we all almost want to have it all. And it is possible to strike a balance, but it would need more showing up for each other and kind of like splitting the stress.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we think about our goals right now because the two of us have not met, as far as we know, have not met the guys who would be our potential partners in the future. And so like we're thinking about this as like single women and feeling like we have to like when we think about providing for our family, we think about like us doing it
Yeah, because
because
we
we
don't
don't have
know, because that's
yeah,
what we know, that
yeah,
we need to
because
provide.
everything
Yeah.
else is uncertain.
Yeah.
And so I think once you have other people there, whether it is your partner or whoever, or like your family community, like it does make balance easier.
Yeah. I also was thinking that from our econ class, that technology has made so much different over the years and has supported both men and women, because before it used to take longer to do the chores, and so there was definitely this person staying back and taking care of the chores, and then also work used to be really stressful, but with all of these innovations coming, work has gotten easier because the labor has become more productive. At the same time, at home, chores take less time because we have machines and they're automated. And so I feel like it's getting easier to strike a balance. Not saying that it's not coming up with different problems. There are definitely more problems coming up and showing up in different ways, but I feel like it's easier than like later times that to show up for each other and also like strike a balance.
Yeah, I think the ability to do both, if we're talking about family and like a family and a household and taking care of that and having a career, like it is just the productivity aspect is much easier. And then you have like AI in your jobs and everything to
Yeah.
make your jobs easier. And
Yeah, and
yeah,
almost like
yeah, I
it's
think be able
raising
to,
these standards for the society and it's raising the standard of living. And
mhm,
yeah. And
yeah.
I
And
don't
I
know.
think
I
we just
feel
have to
like,
be careful that we don't,
yeah.
I think we have to be careful that we don't fill the extra space we have with like other expectations for ourselves, you know?
Yeah. And also like as society, if we have, I don't know, hyped up being successful at work and being successful at your family life, you should also hype up so much more the work life balance. So we don't feel stressed or like the pressure to choose one thing over another, because then you have a balance and society's helping you almost have it.
Yeah, I think if we valued, I heard a quote the other day on social media that was saying like people nowadays were like not bored, we're anxious
Yeah.
because we have like so much pressure to just do things with our time and like be productive.
Yeah.
And like sometimes having the balance and being able to like take a breath and take a moment for yourself is important. And I feel like we do kind of idolize people who do it all and are super productive and super successful. And um, yeah, I think we just need to like remember as a society that we have to take care of ourselves and value health
Yeah,
and time. And yeah,
I agree. Do you have any examples of women who have chosen different paths and what you've learned from them?
I would say I do. Um, my mom would be a good example of someone who prioritized family. Like she did have a career before she had a family, and I think we kind of probably have like similar directions in terms of like where I want to go compared to where she went, where like she was in library science and then became a realtor. And then once she had me and my siblings, she was a stay-at-home mom, and so she still had time to do career, but she made the like active choice to prioritize a family. And she did. I think she did a really good job at that and being present for me and my siblings, and just like always there. And that was a really good example of like the more traditional side of like having a family and being a stay-at-home parent. And then I would say growing up, I didn't have a lot of examples. Like for me, career, I think of like business long term, less of like climbing the corporate ladder. And so I feel like I didn't have a lot of examples, female examples, who pursued business. There were a lot of men in that kind of realm. And it wasn't until like I got older and we had more available to us on the internet that I got to see a lot of role models in the business space. I guess an example for me would be like Layla Hormozy, who is like heading up her company and managing people and like super successful, doesn't have kids. But one thing I've noticed with her is like she still, her role is like taking care of the people at her company and like managing well. And I think as women, like just because we don't have a family doesn't mean that we can't care about people and like nurture our community or our business or something like that. But what about you? Do you have, or who are your role models?
I feel like for me, my mom is also a big one because she's been my best friend ever since I was born. And she's somebody I've seen all my life being there. And she was a stay at home mom too. And for the longest time, I felt guilty that she had to sacrifice so much of her dreams, goals, ambitions, wants, just so that she could be there for my sister and I. And we have talked about it with my mom, and she's like, she wouldn't want it any other way because
Mm-hmm.
that's how she defines success, to be able to raise up to kids who are good people. And that's where she finds her purpose. And that's, we're all finding meaning in life. And that's how she found hers. And so I think she is definitely a big example. But then also, I met this woman. She's the CMO for Nespresso. Her name is Jessica Padula, I think. But she has like two beautiful kids. I hope I'm remembering everything right. But yeah, she's like winning at family, winning at career, doing amazing things with Nespresso, and her ideas are so innovative and nice. She's like training herself to always like learn new things and do new things. At the same time, like she shared pictures with like her husband and her son, and it was just so empowering to see like she was a 10-10 woman, like she was doing it all. And that's where my balance is not a myth comes in from. And then I've also seen women who find purpose by contributing to the society and like having all these business ideas and adding value to the society, and they don't want to have kids, they don't want to have family, but their life goal is to be able to make this place more productive and more beautiful. And I feel like everything, all of these different versions of women in front of me, they're all fair, justified. And I feel like that's why I feel more flexible and I know everything is possible. And I don't have it figured out, but I know like I'm going to end up in one of these versions and I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think you would be willing to give up? Time, money, social life, family for your goals?
That's a hard question because like I don't want to give up any of them.
So hard.
But
Yeah.
for me, part of what has helped me realize what my goals are is like knowing my values, and I have actually like sat down and worked through my values and like figured out which are like my top values, and then within my top values like been able to prioritize them, at least for where I am in life right now. And so a lot of my goals are based off of those values, and my top values would be like integrity, freedom, and ambition. And right now I feel like a lot of those overlap, those categories overlap. What is it? Time and money and like flexibility are all part of like the freedom and ambition part. And I think there's like little pieces of each category that I would be willing to give up rather than giving up a
The
whole
whole bucket.
category. So like for social life, I don't want to give up keeping in touch with friends and family, but I
Yeah.
would give up like I am giving up going out all the time. So
Yeah.
there's different pieces of each of them. Do you have a like whole category that you'd be willing to give up, or do you also have pieces?
I feel like I would give up if you ask me right now and my what stage of life I'm in. I feel like my goals are really driven by my family and what I wanted, the plans I've made for my parents, with my sister, with my friends, and I feel like that's where my goals comes from. That's my drive for time and money, spending my time and money. And I feel like future family is something that does not exist yet. And it's not something that I need to give up because it just doesn't exist. And so I feel like I would almost trade off that to complete all of my plans and goals with what I have. Like I would trade off the new life with the existing
Mm-hmm.
relationships and take
Mm-hmm.
care of what I have than thinking about what doesn't exist. I don't know. For now, I'm in that life stage, and I would almost give up my future family for time, money, and I don't know. I'm rambling at this point.
Yeah, I think it's important that we like. It's a good question because it's important that we know what we're willing to give up.
Yeah,
Because like if we're gonna say yes to some things, we like have to say no to others. Just like in terms of time and resources. So I think the awareness for us is good. So do you think that your goals will be the same as you get older, or do you think your views will change eventually?
I feel like yes, they would change because my goals are based on what I have right now, and that's the kind of person I am. Like I focus on what I have right now, and I work for it, and I work on it. And I know things would change. Everything around me is constantly changing, and so will my goals. And I know one thing from my values is I want to show up for people who are in my life at that point. And I think my goals will change based on that. And I give myself enough leverage to be okay with the changes, to be okay not going after thing I was going after 10 years ago, where maybe prioritizing career, maybe prioritizing family. I'm very flexible with it as long as I have you, my all of my friends, I have my parents. I feel like I'd be able to do that too.
Yeah, I think it's kind of inevitable that our goals change over time
Yeah.
or our plans change over time. Like I feel like all the plans I ever made for like where I am right now, they like all even
It
like
was never
changed
what we
a
planned.
little bit. Like yeah.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah.
and so I
And I
think
feel like
I th-
that has humbled us too. Like that has humbled us that our plans never worked out the way we wanted because we had to prioritize different things given the time and situation.
again I think cuz things are going to change inevitably, we also have to be okay with them changing. Because I feel like at least the trap that I find myself falling into is like I had all these like goals and dreams when I was younger, And I feel like I have to like make something of those just because I had them at some point in my life. And I think when priorities change, being okay with like letting old priorities go that like aren't actually relevant to your life anymore, but still feeling like you owe something to, I guess, like your past self. Well, this has been a great conversation over the last two episodes. We're going to end it here, but this has been the Catching Up podcast with Ananya and Katrina. Thank you for catching up with us, and we're looking forward to catching up with you next time. But before you go, Ananya is going to close off with a quote from Ikigai by Hector Garcia and Francesca Morales.
Life is not a problem to be solved. Just remember to have something that keeps you busy doing what you love while being surrounded by the people who love you.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, you all.